What franchise was milked? Is being milked too much? Terminator, I can respect the third one, and Salvation, while bad, but a good premise, but Genesis was doing a 1080 over the shark, and then they followed it up with Dark Fate, a franchise almost 40 octoseconds old, and Arnold is in damn near all of them. The only thing I can say about that is that at least they didn't go the de-aging route, and after all that time, they still haven't shown how the war ends. I've been shook ever since the Lindsay Ellis mask-off video where she showed all the tweets where people were excited to go after Jenny next. I mean, seriously, there were a bunch of people on Twitter that were thrilled at the thought of revealing the hidden racism or whatever. I don't want to lose the good commentary that I get from her and Sarah Z and Lindsay Ellis. I'm generally pretty conservative overall. I really do need a little balancing and different perspective from time to time. Without those videos I wouldn't be getting nearly enough. Ah yes, Jenny Nicholson, the person that people know who you are talking about, for sure going to look into all that. I know everything Jenny has done for sure, big time fan, as we all are. Everyone knows and loves some Jane Nick. Man, is there anyone out there who is better than her at being a source of entertainment? I contest no. She is top-notch quality, totally worth spending time watching and absorbing. It's a shame she is super busy all the time. Watching 14 Land Before Times really cuts her content down. But when it's released it's pure gold. Love every second of that, Jenny. Can't wait until the next video, it's like torture. Subscriber for life. Paywall? If that ever happens I'd sign me up. I'll pour my wallet just to see her talk about cartoon dinosaur movies. So sick. Is it a continuous story and do they grow up? I kinda want to read up on the Land Before Time cinematic universe. 9th movie. The dinos go off to University Fossil U. Sarah stops attending classes and meets up with Rex, a local dropout who's trying to hit it big with his band the Dinosaurs. The gang hold an intervention after she gets hooked on opium, but she does not listen. Runs off to marry Rex, who soon returns the next season and says the kid isn't his and he doesn't know where Sarah is. 12th movie. Littlefoot is working at his granddad's company biting leaves for dinosaurs who can't chew good. It's a dead-end job and not what he wanted to do. He is depressed but can't get any other work. One day he runs into Spike, who he hasn't seen since university. Spike tells him he's voting for the Comet in the upcoming elections because the Comet is energetic, bright, and doesn't lie like Daddy Tops does. Littlefoot sighs and wishes him the best. Hopes to catch up soon. He'll call for him, but both know they never will. I'll never understand why people say things like this. Whether something is canon or not is a fact which is immutable by anybody other than the IP holder. You can feel free to ignore it if you ever write a fanfic or anything like that, because fan content doesn't have to stick to canon, but even that won't make it not canon. I mean, sure, it won't be canon to your fanfic, but it'll still be canon to the actual official IP. All I can think is that the issue seems to stem from people illogically treating what's canon or not with some kind of weird reverence, even though all canon really means is this takes place in the same universe as this other thing. Yeah, that's the thing with Hollywood. They go into casting for theatrics and legal reasons, not realism. A lot of 20-somethings are cast as teens because it's easier legally and financially than hiring a bunch of minors, who you are legally required to provide schooling for while on set, and they have to be supervised, and they can only work certain hours, etc. Funnily enough, I'm a theoretical physicist, and I wouldn't have been cast to play my job either. I look like a typical brunette cheerleader girl with blonde highlights who wears bows in her hair, along with capri pants, flats, and a blouse. You would not peg me for a scientist if you met me in the street. That's where I stopped as well, not out of anger or upset, just was the first time a show changed, and I realized I was no longer interested. Not the target audience anymore. My gripes with the show have nothing to do with the show itself, I think the show should end to make room for new stuff. Nickelodeon needs to leave the zeros. What have they done in the last 10 years that was noteworthy? Kara, that they pushed to the side. Cartoons are such a great medium, it's a shame to see an entire network sleep so hard. I've been keeping up with the core 90-day fiancé world, so only the core 2 or 3 shows, for a couple of years now. But I've only watched a full episode like twice. YouTube has clips of all the highlights. And there are a few YouTubers who provide some fucking hilarious commentary while recapping some episodes, and those are only like less than 10 minutes long. So my mindset about it is, WTF would I watch a full 45 minutes episode when I can get the scoops, juice without it, lol. I like to watch it for the train wrecks, but there's so much shit and stupidity I stopped watching pretty quickly. I married a man from another continent. He's Irish, I'm American, and I'm right now in process of moving to his country of residence, Germany. Was actually supposed to fly out today but had to change my flight thanks to not getting my passport renewal in time. So we'll now be going on the 1st of August. So much of the drama is either bullshit for the cameras or straight up things you should talk about before you even think of dating long distance internationally, let alone get married and plan to move to another country you don't speak the language and just to be with them. It's a fucking nightmare to do if you don't have a partner who will help you with the adjustments. Make sure you're mentally okay. Make sure you have help with the language and legal input, help you socialize with his friends so you don't feel lonely, etc. It isn't easy, and to be honest, love really isn't enough. You need support and security as well. Seeing some woman marry a gambling addict who wants to borrow thousands from her father, or a 20-something Middle Eastern guy marrying a 50-something lonely woman and them saying it'll work because true love is laughable. I've said this before, but Ice Road Trackers could have been one of the coolest shows ever, if it was treated with a modicum of respect, not only for the topic, but with regards to the viewers and the goal of the channel. Instead of a crap pseudo-reality show following modern-day truckers, do like a 10-part mini-series looking at how humans have managed things like travel, migration, and transportation in the most inhospitable environments on Earth, and how things have changed over the centuries. For example, one part could take a look at the indigenous people of the northwest regions of Canada and Alaska as they survived in the past to today, and how people in those parts today manage a modern life in a place where modern essentials are challenging to maintain. Another mini-series season could do the same for people in, say, Siberia. You'd get a lot of good material out. The premise of Ice Road Trackers remains functionally the same, namely, how do we manage transportation and shipping in places that are frozen solid 11 months of the year, but gets expanded and examined from a historical context. My least favorite parts are that there's so much g-darn padding in these now 2-hour episodes with so many recaps and coming soons that it's basically a half-hour of actual content after ads. Also, all these iterations, and we didn't get the standalone Angela wedding special. Like, I had to scrub through all this nonsense on my DVR to watch it 2 minutes at a time. In closing, big time loved it, but they made it too hard to love. A metaphor for the relationships on the show, perhaps? Question mark. It's all kinds of couples going through the 90-day fiancé visa. You're on a visa for 90 days and have to get married in that window, at least the US. Some are mail-order brides, scams, online relationships who have never met, or totally real. It's all over the place, and it is entertaining. Some of the spin-offs are 90 days, before the 90 days, before couples commit to the marriage stuff, or 90 days, the other way, Americans going to countries they have not researched. Yikes, the series seemed to kick off more during the pandemic. I think it's more fun to watch with friends and comment on, otherwise, it can be really cringe. This is me with Korean dramas on Netflix. TBF they have some nutty twists though. Like as an example, there's this one lighthearted romantic comedy series about a girl dating her boss. Very first scene of the show, some chick yeets herself off the top of a high-rise and you see her fucking body smack land right on top of a car, like blam 40 seconds in with people looking horrified and shit, then it fades to black with people screaming. Watched all 25 hours of that series because of it. Show is so cheesy and filled with typical rom-com stuff, but shit like that comes out of nowhere. Worth it. It was my show with my grandmother, too. She moved halfway across the country 15 years ago, so we were never particularly close, but the last few years we started talking on the phone every week and got a lot closer. Her favorite thing for us to do was complain to each other about that week's ep of Grey's, and how bad the show was getting. We'd always talk about how we were going to stop watching, but we never did, because she enjoyed talking about it too much, especially as her health got worse and she couldn't get out to do things anymore, and then lockdown. We lost her in March, and the very next episode to air got rid of her least favorite character, DeLuca. It was so hard to watch, knowing how thrilled she would have been and how she would have loved talking about it with me. But I'm going to keep watching until they cancel the show, no matter how bad it gets, just because it was our thing. I recently lost my grandmom in April, and we used to always spend time together watching shows and staying up to excitedly talk about them. Our favorites were Psych and Doctor Who, but really we watched everything. When she got sick she moved in with my family, and even as her health declined we would binge watch late into the night on weekends. I know how painful and bittersweet watching something that you used to watch with someone you lost can be, especially when it was something that brought you together or that you know they would love to see if they were still alive. Sending strength and support your way. Your story really touched me and reminded me of what I am going through after losing my own grandmother. I am so sorry for your loss. Right, I'm committed to this show. I've been watching it since my 20s. I remember watching the bomb episode after the Super Bowl. I have invested too much time to not finish it out, but COVID season just about made me quit. I know Ellen Pompeo wants to keep getting those sweet multi-million-dollar checks, but it's time to stop. Let Meredith fall in love with Christina's gift and retire to take care of her kids. Maybe a flash forward to Zola's first day as intern, and showing a loving healthy relationship with Meredith. The end. The world still turns. Or maybe have Seattle Grace collapse during the closing of the Hellmouth beneath it, and the series ends with Meredith slightly smiling while looking at the rubble. I work in quality control for a call center. Basically I started as a normal call monitor, but through a series of events I situated myself as a data analyst type role, where basically I monitor a few calls, let others do a majority of the monitoring, then built a bunch of automated reports to show a bunch of data to bosses like that no one has ever been able to generate. I've played it well so they think it's more time intensive than it is, but can't prove it, while also ensuring it's complicated enough that anyone who I'm asked to teach it to can never quite get it right when I'm not sitting there telling exactly which formulas to use where. I mean, honestly, it wasn't all that thought out. This is just where I currently ended up. I love private practice. No one will change my mind that it's the superior show. At first it might feel more lighthearted and silly, but it's just less teenage drama than Grey's. I've always called it Grey's Anatomy for adults. Characters are older, have older but normal people problems, aren't whiny, and no planes fall on the practice. Granted, some tragedies do happen, but they're treated in a different way. Don't get me wrong, I liked what I saw of Grey's, made it up to S8, but just thinking of private practice brings a smile to my face, and Grey's could never. I love Meredith and Izzy and Christina, but Charlotte, Addison and Violet, on a good day, could mop the floors with them as far as characters go. Just Jesus, if all your original main characters are dead or gone, just quit the fucking show already. Actually, Shonda Rhimes, the creator of the show, has said from the very beginning that she intended the show to run as long as people still watched it, with entirely new casts if necessary. She said she wanted it to be like her or Law and Order. Personally, I prefer shows that have a complete arc for their main characters and then end, but there's nothing wrong with the soap opera format where the cast continues evolving. Like many others, I stopped watching after the plane crash. It wasn't even the crash itself for me, but the fact they killed Lexi in the crash, and instead of killing Mark in the same episode and way, they just let him live one more episode just to drag the whole thing through the summer and into the next season. I'm okay with sad storylines and plot twists. What I'm not okay with is creating plot twists just for the sake of shocking the audience, and not because the story requires it. If that's all a show does, then it's not a well-written show. It would be profitable, but it wouldn't be as profitable as the current model of same game with minor updates is. Either way, you're covering the cost of paying the staff to model new players, kits, and stadiums and update the lineups of every team in the game, so you might as well release a new game for $60 instead of a DLC for $10. But the other advantage of a yearly release is that it acts as a reset. All of these sports titles have some gameplay mode where you play with a team made of players you randomly unlock from a loot box /pack /whatever. This mode is usually the most popular online, but to get wins in this mode you need a team of star players, meaning you need to open a lot of packs to get those star players. Fortunately, the companies that release these games are happy to let you buy additional packs if you don't want to spend hundreds of hours trying to find the best players from a completely random system. The sale of these packs makes these companies a fuck ton of money, and with each year bringing a new title, it effectively resets everyone's unlocked teams, meaning the cycle of selling these loot boxes /packs /whatever can begin again. Sure, you might have got a 5-star team in FIFA 2021, but you'll start with the dregs come FIFA 2022, and will need to buy more again to stay on top. It would be profitable, but it wouldn't be as profitable as the current model of same game with minor updates is. It absolutely would. All they would have to do is release a definitive Madden /FIFA /the show, whatever game. All of a sudden you don't have your player base needing to buy a new game every year. They can sell cosmetics, roster updates, alternate stadiums, season passes, scoring celebrations, historical rosters, player loot boxes, ons, game modes, or whatever to everyone who's ever played the game. If someone doesn't play for a year, they just pick it back up and play again. Hell, they could probably even make the game free to play. That's what they are doing. But why charge $20 when you can charge $60? You really think they are resigning the year to year? Maybe just some small aspects here and there, but stuff that requires so little work it doesn't even matter. But the real reason they release a new game each year rather than DLC is to charge sponsors to be in a new game, then just update image files based on what sponsors are in this time. That's where the big money comes from. I'll copy and paste my above comment. It's much more than that, and putting in a different context helps out a lot, I think. It's more complicated than just roster updates. For people who played them, back in the day it was just roster updates and slight graphics and gameplay updates. Since Ultimate Team modes have come out and become so popular, it's less comparable to how sports games used to be and more comparable to something like Magic: The Gathering. Magic basically has 4 sets that comes out every year. You get cards from packs to build your deck, and eventually more sets get released, and some of the older sets rotate out, and you have a new standard season. It's the same way with Ultimate Team. You crack packs to build and upgrade your roster. New sets, within the game, come out, and then at the end of the season, that game rotates out and a new one takes its place. No one really has a problem with it when it comes to trading card games, but for some reason, it's a big deal when video games do it. Now, there's a lot of work that needs to be done as far as these games go. But there's a reason that enfranchised players buy a new release every single year. It's the same reason enfranchised Magic the Gathering players still buy boxes of the new set, even if they already have thousands of cards from old sets.